I wanted to welcome Mr. Patrick. Mr. Patrick is joining us from Alabama. He has worked in several big companies like a State Farm and Southern company. And he's also a speaker. He's been in a contract speaker for Monster.com. If anyone knows, Monster.com is one of the big headhunting sites that is out there with over 100 million people subscribed to that site. And also he's been, helping people along the way in how to do a public speaking as well as a private conversation. And it is very important for us to learn how to speak in front of people. A lot of times I have seen people come in to interviews, they don't know how to begin. These days, several of the colleges wants to know how articulate you are. Sometimes it's even just the conversation that we have with someone else. We wanted to know how well can we speak to somebody, right? And so without further ado, I'm going to pass on to Mr. Patrick, and we wanted to thank him for joining from Alabama this morning to help our students. Mr. Patrick.
Thank you. I'm not sure if anyone here has ever broken a world record, but believe it or not, there's actually a world record for the most number of finger snaps in 60 seconds. And in just a minute, I'm going to encourage you all to try and break that record. Now, the record is actually 374 set by a boy named Nicholas in Germany back in 2019. And the guidelines are very simple. Each snap has to be clear, distinct, and audible. Second of all, you can only use one hand, so you can't go back and forth snapping left and right and left and right. You just have to pick one hand. So if you start with your right hand, you've got to stick with your right hand the entire 60 seconds. And also, I'll ask everyone to keep up with your own counts. Just try and do the best you can to try and keep up with your own counts as you go during the 60 seconds. And the only other thing I'll say is this is going to stress your forearm or your wrist a little bit. So if you have any issues with maybe your forearm or your wrist, you may want to take a pass. Otherwise, I encourage you to try and break this record. Again, the record is 378 set by a boy named Nicholas. So do the best job you can during this world record attempt to get to 378 or more. So all Patrick, that being said.
Before we go, Patrick, can we ask all the students to actually put their face on the just turn on their video so we can actually see everybody, okay? And we are going to record that.
Okay, everyone, wait for my cue.
Before they go do anything, please turn on your camera. We wanted to see everyone in there. Turn on your camera so we can see you. Everyone, there's like a Bob, Miss Barbara, Jalia Moore, Jarlene.
Jalia Moore, Jalia.
Yes, everyone that is out there, go ahead and turn your video on. We want to see everyone as we start to work on. Thank you, Miss Barbara. We still have like a couple of them that hasn't turned their video on. You just want to make sure every student, if you can turn your video on. All right, Patrick.
Okay, thank you, Cyril. All right, so on your marks, I'm going to time for 60 seconds. Do the best job you can to get as many finger snaps. You're shooting for 378. Get as many finger snaps as you can in 60 seconds. On your mark, get set, go. That's 20 seconds.
We cannot switch our hands, huh?
Cannot.
No.
20 more seconds. Hang in there.
There's no noise coming from the finger anymore. It's only swinging.
Time's up. Okay, great job, everybody. Now do me a favor. If you got more than 125 finger snaps, go ahead and type your number in the chat box. More than 125 finger snaps, type your number in the chat box. Okay, 110, awesome. 160. Maddie, okay, Cyril, 132, 170, 115, 131, 175. Wow. Okay, wonderful job. Some of you folks in the higher 179, I lost count because there was so many. Katina lost count. There was too many. Some of you folks in the 100+ range may want to revisit this because you got some potential. So my question is, you want to see what 337 finger snaps in 60 seconds looks like? Let me go and share a little video with you. This is actually the world record event, the world record video of this experience.
Ooh, goodness. My goodness.
Wow.
Mm.
Okay, so I think you got the idea. Now, my hope is that you were able to see the video clearly and smoothly. And if you were able to, you would have noticed two things. Number one is Nicholas was essentially doing something very similar to what we were doing. He was, snapping his fingers as quickly as he could. But the one difference, and I tried this myself, I think I got 173. I think I tied somebody. I tried this myself, got 173 in my first try, and I did the same thing. I snapped my fingers as quickly as I could. Now, the one difference that Nicholas was doing was that he was snapping his fingers. In addition, he was also using his wrist. So he was using his wrist almost into propelling it into like a whipping motion, which dramatically increased the number of snaps. So bottom line is he did two things different than what we did this morning. Number one is he made some small adjustments, and that small adjustment was that he involved his wrist in the process. And number two, he practiced. So big picture, when it comes to success in life, you're really looking at those two elements. You want to make small adjustments as you go and practice. And with that approach, you are guaranteed to experience more success than you ever thought possible. Well, good morning, everybody. As was mentioned, my name is Patrick O'Mara. I'd like to welcome you to a brief little discussion on public speaking. I'm going to focus on three quick elements. One, we'll talk a little bit about the value of giving public speaking. Why is this even something we should be visiting today? Two, I'll provide a couple of quick tips, and then we'll talk a little bit about interviewing skills. So let me ask you a question. When it comes to number one, the value of public speaking, when are you most likely to give a speech or to talk to a group of people? Go ahead and either share your response verbally or type it in the chat. When are you most likely to give a speech? In class, at work, okay? School, agreed. At competition, good. So those are, and what was the question? Question is, when are you most likely to give a speech? Church, wonderful. Okay, and so let me go ahead and school, I agree with everything you said. And here's what I think about. I think about probably 5 different areas, and you touched upon a lot of those, and I appreciate your involvement. School, I agree that maybe if at your stage of the game, your number one world to give presentations, because when it comes to school, you're going to be doing maybe a speech for an assignment in class. Maybe you're in class, you have a question, so you're essentially doing public speaking. You're speaking out loud in front of a group of people. Or maybe you speak up in class. All examples of public speaking. Some of you may participate in extracurricular activities. Maybe you're a member of a club in high school. Maybe you're an officer in the club. So again, you may find yourself speaking in front of a group of people. You may be involved in the community, as was mentioned too on your responses. You may do some volunteer work where you're helping out or maybe addressing a group of people. So, as was mentioned, to church or Sunday school, that may be something else that you're doing some kind of a presentation. Maybe you're reading some scripture in front of a group, maybe in front of the entire church. And the other thing too is maybe from a, again, just put myself in your shoes, you're involved in, YouTube and Instagram and Facebook. So you may be doing some recordings and you're posting your virtual presentation online for everyone else to see. The focus there is that's actually a virtual presentation. So that being said, there are opportunities to give presentations and you folks are taking advantage of those. How can giving a presentation, how could how can delivering a presentation or being good at delivering speeches help you improve your life? So let me phrase that again. How can being good at delivering speeches or presentations help you improve your life or help you be better, enjoy more success in your life? And I think that's an important question. If it's not going to help me in my life, why should I focus on it? And this may take some time and that's okay. But big picture is you want to ask yourself, how is improving my public speaking skills going to help me in life? Because when it comes right down to it, yeah.
We didn't see a video or a picture if you were trying to show us.
Say one more time.
Were you trying to share something? Because we didn't see anything.
I am not, no. It's just me live and in person.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. And by all means too, and Cyril, I appreciate your comments. Keep them up. Bottom line is, you folks are not here for me, I'm here for you. And if you have questions, comments, whether we're talking about the students or the volunteers, please continue to go ahead and throw that out. So looking at the chat box, you can make some important connections, interviewing for a job, being confident, all wonderful answers. Improve comprehension, excellent. So big picture is, generally speaking, public speaking can be kind of a scary thing for a lot of people. But there's also, in some respects, kind of the harder something is to do, the bigger the reward. And there are rewards in it for you when it comes to improving your public speaking skills. I also see too, because it can be used in what job you have and in the future. So completely agree with all the responses. A couple of things, and I try to ask myself the same question. Why would people want to be good at giving speeches or public speaking? And, I came up with some of the same thoughts: more popular, more recognition, more leadership opportunities, which ultimately too, and you'll see this as you continue in your own growth and careers, that means more money, better grades in school. The better I do a speech in a class, the better my grade's going to be on that project or in that class. If I do record stuff online, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, whatever the case is, I'm going to get more likes. The better job I do communicating my message, the more likes I'm going to get. The other thing too is it helps you grow. And here's just one of the realities, and this really starts right here in this segment, is, the more a person steps out of their comfort zone, and right now the scenario is kind of set up for, I understand how you're feeling, where you're on this video, we have 30 plus people on the video. I don't know that I really want to step up and get myself out there and share a comment, because it's kind of scary, or maybe, I feel the pressure. I might not say something well, or I may be misunderstood, or whatever the case is. It's something that I don't do very often. And all those things together, essentially can make me feel like, and again, we're talking about the training process here, eventually make me feel like that's a scary thing and I'm not going to do it. Well, I can also tell you the other side of the coin is that when I do speak up in class, or when I do speak up in a volunteer situation, or in church, or in this call, essentially what happens, it's going to make you feel better, because there's going to be a little bit of courage that it's going to take to speak up. And when I take that action, I'm going to feel better about myself, because I'll feel a sense of accomplishment. So that's immediately one of the benefits you're going to gain by any time you go ahead and speak up and share your voice. So let me do this. I'm going to go ahead and really to exactly the comments Sania gains, it will help me be less shy and communicate more. And we talked a little bit about feelings too. This is one of those situations where your feelings going to tell you, shut up, don't say anything. You're nervous. You don't want to look stupid. And you want to use your brain there to override that. Well, I want to grow. I want to be a leader. I want to experiment. I don't want to be afraid of failure. So I'm going to, in spite of how I feel, I'm going to speak up anyway. And again, that's where you start to reap some of the rewards of more, I'll start to feel more courageous about life. I'll be more involved and engaged. And as a result of that, my life will be more interesting and exciting. So those are all benefits that are there for you every day you decide to speak up. I'm going to jump into my second segment here. And this really gets into a couple of public speaking tips. And I'm just going to give you 3 quick tips. And I think when it comes to, I mean, I do a lot. I lead 2-day public speaking workshops for a lot of organizations, as well as graduate students in college. And, you know, this is part of a kind of a 2-day workshop. So there's a lot of stuff we could certainly talk about. I'm just going to touch upon 3 quick items. But the bottom line is, when it comes to public speaking, probably the greatest barrier to me doing more public speaking or being more successful is public speaking can be scary. And that being said, I hear a lot of people tell me, you know, at the graduate college level, you know, who are professionals and engineers in the workplace, you know, we all feel this to a certain degree. I don't like doing it. Public speaking's scary. It's uncomfortable. And there's something wrong with me. I get too nervous when I do a presentation. I hear those kinds of things all the time. And as a starting point, I'd just like to share a quotation with you. The oldest and strongest emotion of humankind is fear. And the oldest and strongest kind of fear is fear of the unknown, by H.P. Lovecraft. And what that says to me is, number one, if I feel nervous when it comes to public speaking, then my body is acting exactly the way it's supposed to, because I have these emotions. We talked about this. And, you know, the emotion of fear is one of our strongest emotions. So already we're talking about something that I'm going to feel pretty intensely. And then the second part of that is, the greatest fear is the unknown. And I really don't know what's going to happen before I open my mouth to deliver a speech or to share a message or a comment. So that in and of itself is a recipe for a very challenging feeling. And I say that to simply say, all of us feel that to one degree or another. I feel that. I guarantee you, I get nervous before I do a presentation. That's completely natural and normal. So even though you feel uncomfortable and scared and uncomfortable and anxious, that doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. That means everything's working as it should. So I want to start there when it comes to just managing anxiety. So let me give you a couple of tips. But before I do, let me ask you a question. What do you do to manage your fear when it comes to public speaking? Maybe your fear of speaking up in class or asking a question or getting in front of a group and sharing a message. How do you deal with that? Practice before the mirror. Wonderful. You practice more and just keep doing it. Excellent. Totally agree. In public, we tried to learn and rehearse the question better, or try different breathing exercises as well to get the anxiety out. That's good. You know, as was mentioned too, you know, your body, you have your mind and your body kind of working together, and the breathing will be a factor. And you know, physiologically, the more natural my breathing is, the less anxious I'm going to feel. So there are some breathing techniques you can do prior to a presentation. Wonderful. Thank you all for sharing. So here's a couple of other thoughts, and I'm just going to touch upon 5 quick items in terms of things you could do to help manage your anxiety. And these are things I do to help manage my anxiety, and I hope it works for you. And as was mentioned, the first thing is practice, practice, practice. There's no way around that. Just like that kid, that world record breaking kid, Nicholas in Germany, he didn't just show up just in one day and knocked out that 378 world record. Just like all of us, he had a starting point. And then once he figured out his starting point, then he made some adjustments and he practiced and practiced and practiced. And as you said too, that did an awful lot to help improve his performance. The second thing is be comfortable with technology. And I like the fact that Cyril in this group is kind of forcing you, you know, to use your camera, to use your equipment. And those will be some of the things that when you're giving a presentation that can already be scary, but if it's a virtual presentation and I'm using technology, that adds one more element, because that's something else that can go wrong. And I would just say too, back to the practice, and just a couple quick tips you want to think about when it comes to the camera. You know, generally speaking, you want to have the camera about eye level. And it's obviously very common, and I'm not suggesting anybody makes any changes, but just a couple quick tips. One is most people, they're looking at a laptop, which is on a desk or a table or whatever the case is, you're looking down. And that's generally speaking, not the most attractive view of the camera when it's looking right up. You know, if you're looking at me, you're looking at, you know, more than one chin probably. So I want to go ahead and have my camera at a higher level. And quite frankly, I have a little platform, and I got a box that I have under my laptop to raise my laptop so where I'm looking at my camera at eye level. So that's just a quick tip when it comes to just some of the things to prepare. The other thing too is lighting. And generally speaking, natural light's the best, but you want to try and have the light source in front of you. You know, a window is great. I don't want to have the window behind me because that can make me look a little funky and just kind of get some of the lines off. So generally speaking, I want to have natural light. Like I'm right now in my basement, I have a ring light. I think it cost me $20 at Best Buy. So I have the ring light there to have the light source in front of me, which again makes for a more attractive, more professional view. And the only other thing I'll say too is just going to be eye contact. You know, as you can imagine, eye contact with anything, just any relationship, just, you know, being around, that's going to be a factor. And when it comes to eye contact, when I'm delivering something virtually, I've seen people do this right all the time. You know, right now it looks like I'm looking you directly in the eye. All I'm doing right now is I'm looking at a specific spot on my camera screen. And what I see a lot of times people doing though is first of all, that's uncomfortable. I have to practice that to make that look more natural. But a lot of people I've seen it where they're looking every way but the spot on the camera. And when I'm the speaker and I'm looking all around here at everything that's going on, I'm going to start to lose your attention. So I need to first of all figure out where that spot is for me, because if I look directly into my camera, it looks like I'm looking over your heads. So again, just through some practice, I can figure out where's my spot on my monitor that I can look at to pretend or give the appearance as if I'm giving you direct eye contact. So that's something else, again, I want to practice and work through. Number 3, nervousness will burn off, just like getting used to cold water. So it's kind of like, you know, my guess is, you know, at some point within the last year, you've probably gone swimming. And when you jumped in the water, unless that water was 98.6 degrees, it was probably going to be a little cold, a little uncomfortable. And so let me ask you, when you jumped in the water and it was a little cold, did you get out of the water immediately and not go back in the water the rest of the day? Or did you stay in the water for a little bit longer because you knew after a few minutes you get used to the water? What did you do? Stay there, exactly. And that's kind of the way, you know, we kind of know. We all have enough, if you swim before, we all have enough swimming experience to know when I jump in the pool, it's going to be cold and a little uncomfortable, but after I stay in the water for a few minutes, I'll get used to the water. Generally speaking, public speaking is the same way. Your first few minutes of your presentation, you may be a shock to your system, but I have enough public speaking experience to know after a few minutes, I'll tend to get used to the water. And you may find yourself in the same situation. So even though your first couple seconds or a minute of a presentation may be rocky and uncomfortable, trust in yourself that after a few minutes, just like in the pool, you'll tend to get used to the water. Also I just noticed in the chat box that Navia, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, I think placed 3rd in a debate contest. Woohoo! That's my sit down wave for you. Awesome job. Congratulations. So taking that a step further, let's take a look at another tip. And this is something this is more of a strategy, but it's something that I've had a lot of success with as a professional speaker, and I want to pass this on to you. And when I say professional speaker, you know, this is Kids2Careers. That is actually a profession. I mean, I actually get paid to deliver presentations by corporations as well as universities. So I say that to simply say too, this is my career. This is the Kids2Career process for me has gone the professional speaker route. So this is something that I am earning an income at, which allows you the same opportunity. So let's take a look at another angle. One of the angles that I will use in a presentation is I'll do what's called an audience-centered introduction. So meaning, and I'm going to walk you through this. You're all, looks like most of you are sitting down, kind of get yourself so you have a little space between maybe you and your computer. And I want you to take your right leg and start spinning your right leg clockwise. So take a minute, start spinning your right leg clockwise. Okay, good. So now you're spinning your right leg clockwise. Take your right arm, draw number 6 in the air, and see if you can keep that leg spinning in the same direction. Right leg spinning clockwise, draw number 6 in the air, see if you can keep that leg spinning in the same direction. You can't, can you? I know, it's okay. So what I just would have done is I would have done what I call an audience-centered introduction. So I would have started my presentation off, not launching into, hi, my name is, and today I'm here to talk to you about, and glad to see you, and good morning, and so on and so forth. I'm launching into getting you to doing something. And when I do that, essentially, the focus is off me. It's on you. Just for at least for a couple seconds, you were oblivious to me as a speaker. You're trying to figure out which way is clockwise, and then draw number 6. And oh, look what happened to my leg now. I'm trying to figure that out. You're totally oblivious to me. And all the while, I'm up here getting used to the water. I started my segment off with a couple of seconds of dialogue. And next thing, I threw you into a situation where you're going like this, 1, 2, 3, 4. During that 60 seconds, you're oblivious to me. And again, all the while, I'm up here getting more comfortable with the presentation process. So again, I offer that as a tip or a strategy. And the last one I'll talk about, and this is true, it's embarrassing, is when it comes to overcoming anxiety, is I don't do shots. Now, in other words, when I go to the doctor and have to get a needle, stuck in me, I freak out. I don't do that. I pass out. And that's one of the things I've dealt with ever since I was a kid. And so that being said, when I find myself in a situation where I have to go to the doctor, of course, I'm an adult and I have to, give blood or, get shots sometimes. I just basically, have to psych myself up. So I say that to simply say, from your standpoint, when it comes to, oh, I feel so anxious and I'm trying to try these different strategies and nothing seems to work. My response to you in that situation is, if you do feel nervous and uncomfortable before a presentation, I don't care. Go out there and do it anyway. Because bottom line is, sometimes we have to do things that are hard or challenging, but ultimately they're the best for us. And sometimes we're going to hate the way it feels. We're just going to have to do it anyway. And I say that to simply say, I literally have to get angry at myself to get myself to go to the doctor every year. And I have to kind of, go in there and get my game face on, because I know I'm going to be there for a while and I'm going to, go through what to me feels like torture, and then I'll survive it. And that may be, again, your only thing around when it comes to your anxiety you may be feeling, maybe, look, I don't care how I feel, I'm going to do it anyway. So let me jump in this. I'm watching my time too. I've got, looks like 11 minutes to visit. I'm going to wrap up on time. A tip I can give you when it comes to your discussion. This is a tip that somebody gave me once when it came to what kind of volume should I have. And it's very similar to listening to the radio. So let's say, you play the radio, and the example that was given to me was radio in the car. You're in the car, you play the radio. The radio is at maybe, you want to concentrate, or you're trying to, figure out where you're at, or listening to someone in the backseat. You have the radio very low or off. Sometimes your radio is at very low volume. Most of the time, it's at maybe a 3 to a 7, a little lower, a little louder. That's kind of the way most of the time the radio is somewhere around those frequencies or that volume level. And then the final thing is that sometimes, especially at your age, the radio is really loud. It's too loud. And that is an excellent metaphor for the volume I should use in a presentation. So point being, during my presentation, some of my volume should be real low, just a little bit. Sometimes I should just be much softer. Most of the time during my segment, it should be a little lower, a little louder. And then sometimes if I really want to emphasize something, I get loud. So that can provide me kind of a template to follow in terms of delivering an engaging presentation from a volume standpoint. Let's talk about eye contact. 2 things. One, your parents probably said, or your family at some point probably said to you, Look me in the eye and tell me that. And they're probably trying to, again, get your attention. They may also have said, or really determine your level of honesty. Or they may have said, look at me when I'm talking to you. I'm a parent. I understand I've said that to my children. And all we're trying to do there is get your attention. And I say that to simply say, if you're giving a speech and not making eye contact, A, the audience, you don't really have their attention, and B, they question your credibility. So that's an important factor. So here's my last thing I'll throw out to you. Go ahead and take your finger and hold it in the air like this. Now take that finger and make it into a circle like that. Now take that circle and touch your chin. Okay, your chin is down here. All right, so for some folks who were like, okay, yeah, I got my, what else, what's next? You know, point being, you basically, we tend to believe more of what we see than what we hear. And if as a speaker, I am not really selling you, I believe in this message with my facial expressions and my enthusiasm, you're going to believe more of what you're seeing rather than, again, what the words. I could say I'm excited, but if my face says something else, that's what you're going to believe. So let me go ahead and kind of close down. I have two last thoughts I'm going to share with you. One is I'm going to highlight, just share with you a brief little story, and I'm going to close with 10 quick interviewing tips, and then we'll call it a day. Well, I'll head to Disneyland. And my story is this. I think you want to weave stories into your presentations. And here's my story. And I'm kind of putting myself in your shoes. I'm 57 years old, and I've had an interest in public speaking for probably 40 plus years. It actually goes back for me back to my junior high. So I'm an 8th grader in junior high, and for whatever reason, I signed up to participate in this speech contest. And I going to junior high on a Saturday morning, and I participate in this contest. I still remember my selection was this Abbott and Costello, who's on first. It's like this old comedy routine from a long time ago. And that was my selection, and I was going to play both roles, which in and of itself was kind of weird. And bottom line is, I didn't win. But I remember there, even though I didn't leave that day with a trophy, I left with something more important, because one of the judges handed me a slip of paper and only had 4 words on it. And the words said, "Good voice, try radio." Well, bottom line is I never tried radio, but I can say that I had kind of the recognition or the validation that, wait a second, I have a good voice, whatever that is. And apparently that's a skill set I can build on. So as a result of that got me into high school, where I started to take speech classes and drama classes. That got me into college, where I majored in speech communication. And I was a participant on the speech team in college, won some awards. I graduated college. I became a member of Toastmasters. I participated in Toastmaster speech contests, won Toastmaster speech contest. I'm now a professional speaker. This is my career. And my point is that all came down to one experience I had back in 8th grade that somebody spelled out for me. I had something going for me. And as a result of that, I believed it. And because of that, I built my life on it. And I say that to simply say, when it comes down to the experience you're having right now, you have a lot of volunteers. You have Cyril and a lot of volunteers on the line. And what will happen, and what probably has happened already, is they're seeing special things in you. And you're hearing comments on the things that they're sharing. And allow yourself to experience or to feel, maybe they're onto something. Maybe they picked something out in me, or they recognize a special gift that I want to start building on. And you may find that special gift, like it did for me, provide you with direction in your life. So I would encourage you, when it comes to Cyril and the volunteers, the comments and the supportive things that they're sharing and encouraging, and the things that they're identifying, the gifts they're identifying in you, listen to them, follow their advice, because you may find it will change your life forever. In my last few minutes, I'm just going to share with you a couple quick thoughts. And it's when it comes to video, or it comes to interviewing tips. And the interviewing tips are this, and I'll send Cyril a copy of this. I'll email a copy of my notes. If he wants to pass it on, you'll have this. It looks like this is being recorded, so you don't have to take notes. Top 10 interviewing tips. 1 is prepare. You want to do mock interviews. That means do practice interviews before you actually go into your high school or college interview, or when you interview for a job, somewhere in the community. You want to dress nice. You want to arrive a little bit early. Number 4, you want to offer a firm handshake. You want to stand. So if you're doing this face-to-face, you want to stand until someone asks you to be seated. That'd be number 5. You want to smile, show enthusiasm. You want to maintain good eye contact. So beyond the virtual, if I'm talking to somebody face-to-face, I want to maintain that good eye contact when I'm speaking to them, as well as when I'm listening. That displays a sense of confidence. I want to sit up straight. Number 9 is I want to be honest. And number 10 is I want to ask a question or two at the end of the interview to demonstrate my interest. I'm going to close with a quick little video snippet, then I'll open things up for any last questions. The video I'm going to show you right here is what I want you to avoid. So here's my last thought. I'm going to show you just a 30-second video snippet, and this is basically just a conversation a family is having over dinner time. Let's take a look at the video, then I'm going to share with you my last thought.
So, son, what'd you do in school today?
Well, first I went to science, and then that was over. And then spelling, and then that was over. And then it was lunchtime, so I went to lunch. And then I ate it, and then lunchtime was
The less
over.
art
Then
kids
we had
get,
recess, and then that
the
was
more it
over, and
shows.
then school was over, and now I'm here.
Are yours getting enough?
Sounds like yesterday.
Art. Ask for more.
The thought I'd like to leave you with is when it comes to public speaking and speeches, as well as interviewing, lots of people approach things exactly as that kid did. And then I did this, and then this, and then this, and then this. And whether you're doing a presentation in class as part of a project, when you find yourself going, and then this, just sharing a list of information without any kind of weaving in any kind of a story, weaving in something more interesting, a visual aid, or some personal perspective or opinion, that's exactly how it sounds. And then what you find is that people start to kind of check out of your message. And this is just a process that you can continue to grow on. So I encourage you to build in some level of interest within any future presentations, as well as interviews. I would like to thank you all for the opportunity to visit with you. And at this point, are there any questions?